Hello there, I'm your host Dan Rojas, and I have three 12-volt solar panels here. Solar panels are similar to batteries in the sense that they use direct current. They differ though from batteries in that batteries always have the same voltage in them, whereas solar panels will produce more voltage to accommodate the load. So these solar panels are rated at 12 volt, but they actually produce 20 volts, a little bit more than that, almost 21 volts with no load to them. Now I'm going to be showing you some different configurations of how you can raise the voltage using these, and basically how you can combine a couple of these together to increase the amperage to get more power out of them. The main reason that you'd want to increase the voltage on these panels is that there are some inverters out there that are 24 volt. They're a little bit more efficient than 12 volt inverters, so some people like those. Now these panels again are 12 volt, so what we're going to do is we're going to be taking these, I'm going to be showing you the voltage of one, then I'm going to be linking these together one way to show you how to increase the voltage, and I'm also going to be linking them together another way to increase the amperage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up one panel by itself. This is without a load, and you can see that this one produces 21 volts. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook these together positive negative, to where the positive of one is hooked to the negative, and you're going to end up with an extra positive and negative, and we're going to connect to that. Okay, we now have two panels hooked up, and you can see that the voltage now jumps up to 41 volts. Now I'm going to do the third panel. With three panels hooked together, you can see that this jumps up to 61 volts. Now this is 61 volts at about a half an amp, so there's not a lot you're going to find that runs off of that. But by putting two together, you end up with the 40 volts, which when there's a load put on it, pulls it down to 24 volts, and that will run an inverter. Now the way that you would take three of these panels and put them together for a practical use would be to hook all the positives and all the negatives together. Right, I've got all my negatives together there, all my positives here, and you're going to notice that this meter drops back to 21 volts even though all three panels are hooked up. The difference with this is 21 volts or 12 volts with the load on it at an amp and a half versus a half an amp, which increases the power output to it. So a panel by itself will not run this motor. But if you put them all together, these panels will run this motor. Now, you don't want to ever run a motor with them hooked at the higher voltage, because if it's a 12 volt motor, direct current motors can run off of a lower voltage, but they can't run really good off of a higher voltage. You can burn them up after a short time. So that's one way to do it. Hooking the panels together in a positive negative configuration to raise the voltage may seem a little strange to you, but when you have a digital camera that you put the batteries one up, one down, the charger input that you'll notice on the side of the digital camera will say 3 volts. If you put 4 batteries in, it's going to jump up to 6 volts. So this takes advantage of direct current's ability to hook multiple things together to increase the voltage. The same is true for car batteries or deep cycle marine batteries that you'd use to run an inverter in your house. By doing this, you can take several systems like I have back here and link them together to either create more amperage or a higher voltage to accommodate your needs. The 45 watt system behind me takes advantage of this. What it does is you take all three solar panels and you put all the negatives on one side, all the positives on the other side. What that does is it takes solar panels that are an amp and a half, puts them all together to create about 4.5 amps of power at 12 volt. One thing you never want to do is hook a panel with a higher amperage, like the ones back there, to one of these in the positive negative configuration. You can do it where they're all hooked together and increase the amperage. I could add these to this safely by adding all the positives to one and all the negatives to the other. To do the positive negative configuration, it's okay to do if you just are testing the voltage, but if you actually put a load on there at the higher voltage, the higher amperage from that panel can destroy one of these. So that's just something to know. Putting them all together where all the positives and all the negatives doesn't really matter so long as the voltage is the same. You're going to end up with just a higher amperage and it's going to produce more power. Now the same is true for batteries. You can take batteries and link them together the same way. You can hook a battery positive negative on a 12 volt car battery, you end up with 24 volts. You put all the positives together and all the negatives together, you get the amperage of all the batteries in one line, which is Pretty powerful thing. All right, what I have here is 3 regular car batteries. You can use deep cycle marine batteries. They actually work better. I like the car batteries because if something goes wrong with them, a lot of them have 2-year warranties, so you can take them back. But I have 1 battery hooked up right now. We're not going to be using this 3rd one for this example. But you can see that that single battery produces 12 volts. Now what I'm going to be doing is hooking these up in the positive-negative configuration. So I'm going to be taking the negative from this car battery and hooking it up to the positive on this one. And then I'm going to be completing the circuit out here with this one. You can see that the voltage jumps up to 25 volts. So car batteries are basically, all direct current's going to do that. In a future video, I'm going to be talking to you about watts, amps, and volts and explain to you about how you can hook one of these up to a solar panel with an inverter to your house, and also show you how you can see how much energy you're going to require from your system to decide how many solar panels you're going to need and how many sets of batteries you're going to need. I'm your host, Dan Rojas. Thank you for watching.